in 2025 didn't rely on jump scares or nostalgia. It thrived on weird ideas, uncomfortable tension, and stories that crawled under people's skin. For this ranking, we're using IMDb user ratings as of this recording, filtered by minimum vote count so a movie doesn't cheat its way into the top 10 with 18 votes from the director's cousins. This list isn't about critical hype. It's about what actual viewers agreed was worth watching. Let's just say it. The movie had no way to win. Following 28 days later and 28 weeks later means stepping into one of the most beloved zombie franchises ever made. And instead of trying to outdo the chaos, 28 years later did something dangerous. It slowed the hell down. Most people expected running zombies and constant panic. What they got instead was a movie that feels tired on purpose. The world isn't ending anymore. It already ended. The tone here is bleak rather than bombastic, and that's why users rate it solidly. It plays less like a zombie sequel and more like a world still grieving itself, drained, cold, and emotionally hollow. Not scary in a flashy way, but unsettling because of how real its exhaustion feels. It feels like a story that waited until the apocalypse got boring and then asked, what happens after? Funny yet scary. 10 certified picks. Link on the screen. Final Destination coming back is like finding your old high school bully on LinkedIn. You're curious, but braced for disappointment. The franchise lives and dies on one thing: creative murder machines. And yes, Bloodlines delivers on that front. The deaths are as ridiculous, elaborate, and cruel as fans hoped for. But here's what surprised people. This one actually tries to mean something. Instead of just throwing random teenagers into death splendor, Bloodlines builds the curse around family lines. Bloodlines doesn't reinvent the series, it just sharpens it. Death feels methodical again, less like a prank and more like a quiet audit of mortality. The kills are cruel, creative, and delivered with the precision fans expect, which is why the IMDb scores sits comfortably near the top. Cold, impersonal, patient, and that makes it scarier than ever. This is one of those movies where nothing happens, and yet you feel like you've witnessed something terrible. Together isn't just about a relationship falling apart. It's literal body horror wearing the clothes of a breakup movie. As their emotional connection decays, their bodies start betraying them in ways that feel disturbingly organic. Skin hardening, joints twisting, movements becoming stiff or unnatural, like their nervous systems are evolving in different, incompatible directions. The horror isn't metaphorical, it's physical. No mass killer in the hallway, but the danger is everywhere. Every uncomfortable pause, every forced smile, every "I'm fine" that clearly isn't. This movie plays like a breakup you're trapped inside. Arguments that don't explode, they rot slowly. The horror sneaks in through the cracks. One character starts pulling away emotionally while the other grips tighter. The tension becomes physical. By the final act, you realize this isn't about whether they stay together. It's about whether they survive each other. That's why IMDb voters didn't file this under drama. They filed it under I need a shower and possibly a tetanus shot. Daily horror news and lists at likehorror.com. This might be the simplest horror concept of the year, and it might be the cruelest. Imagine being told, walk, don't slow down, don't stop, or you die. That's it. No escape rooms, just forward motion or execution. The long walk traps you inside a nightmare that never speeds up and never relents. The movie doesn't give you action scenes, it gives you attrition. It's watching teenagers lose hope in real time. The movie understands something most horror films forget. Fear isn't always sudden. Sometimes it's certainty. Sometimes it's math. You watch these boys start strong, then time catches up. Hunger creeps in, and when the first walker falls, the tone changes. This stops being a game. What really wrecks people isn't the violence, it's the normalization of it. The world inside the movie is horrifying because it treats suffering as entertainment, and that hits uncomfortably close to home. IMDb users responded because this film isn't just horrifying, it's quietly philosophical. It asks what happens to dignity under pressure. By the end, it doesn't matter who wins, you already lost. Companion leans fully into tech-driven sci-fi horror, blending emotional manipulation with literal physical threat. It explores how technology can weaponize intimacy, creating a relationship where control becomes both emotional and bodily. It's polished, eerie, and unsettling in a quiet, modern way, that kind of horror that sticks because it feels possible. The film keeps you in that uneasy zone where you're never totally sure who is being honest. The tension comes from watching a relationship become a battleground without either side admitting a war is happening. By the third act, Companion stops pretending to be polite, and that's when it becomes genuinely unsettling. IMDb users loved it because it felt too real. This is horror that taps into modern fears. Being watched, being controlled, being emotionally overwritten. Companion doesn't shout its scares. It whispers them into your confidence. Quick question for you, and be honest. What kind of horror scares you more? Tell me in the comments. I actually want to see how many of you pretend you are not scared even though you pause the movie 3 times. The Ugly Stepsister is full-on transformation horror where jealousy doesn't just warp her mind. It warps her body, her posture changes, her features sharpen unnaturally, her skin stretches in ways makeup tutorials should never describe. It's the physical manifestation of envy, turning her into something that looks vaguely human but increasingly wrong. This isn't a dark fairy tale, it's a mutation story. Cinderella gets a magical glow up, the stepsister gets a body that refuses to obey her anymore. The beauty here, ironically, is how grounded the horror is. No witch, no spell, just the very real fear of being compared your entire life and losing every time. The stepsister's descent isn't loud, it's painfully quiet. The way viewers described this movie was amazing. She didn't turn evil, she just stopped pretending to be okay. This film is uncomfortable because it knows exactly how jealousy feels. Anyone with a sibling knows love and hatred are stored in the same room. And the Ugly Stepsister lets that room rot from inside. By the time the third act unfolds, the horror is unmistakably flesh-based, and IMDb voters respond because the movie commits to the grotesque instead of teasing it. The therapy? No thanks. I'll resurrect someone instead. Horror movie. If Grief had a warning label, it would say, do not attempt necromancy while emotionally compromised. Bring Her Back is the horror version of those decisions you make at 3 a.m. Except here, you're summoning your dead loved one and calling it healing. The movie nails the absolute worst stage of grief, the stage where logic evaporates. It treats resurrection like a desperate trauma response. The uncomfortable part is how understandable everything feels at first. You get why someone would try something stupid if it means undoing pain for even a second. But then the movie reminds you, if someone wasn't meant to come back, they won't come back right. What viewers loved is how the horror builds like a guilt spiral. Things feel beautiful, then they feel strange, then they feel wrong. IMDb users didn't praise it because it was scary. They praised it because it felt honest. If you've ever missed someone so badly it physically hurts, this movie aims directly at that wound. And then it twists hard. The Sad Monster cinematic universe continues. Before watching this, ask yourself one thing. Am I emotionally stable enough to feel bad for a corpse today? Because this movie absolutely wants to ruin your empathy. The new Frankenstein doesn't focus on the flashy theatrics. It goes straight for the existential dread. What happens when you create life and immediately regret it? The creature doesn't start as a monster. He becomes one because the world treats him like a mistake. Instead of running away screaming, you're sitting there thinking, okay, but honestly, he kind of has a point. This version leans into isolation, abandonment, identity crisis, and the horrible realization that your existence is actually someone else's accident. It's horrifying in the quietest, saddest way. IMDb users love this direction because it treats Frankenstein as a tragedy instead of Halloween merch. This creature doesn't scare you. He depresses you into respecting him. The movie where the horror is, what the hell is happening? Weapons feels like 3 different nightmares duct taped together, and somehow it works. It's the kind of movie where halfway through you pause and say, am I dumb, or is this movie messing with me on purpose? Good news, it's the movie. Weapons jump between tones and storylines in ways that should feel chaotic, but instead feel hypnotic. It's horror through confusion and misdirection. The fun part is watching viewers argue about what the movie means. Some think it's about trauma, some think it's about violence. Some think it's about society falling apart. Some think it's about absolutely nothing. Guess what? All 4 groups are correct enough. It's not a puzzle box movie. It's more like a psychological booby trap. The deeper you go, the less you trust yourself. And that is exactly why IMDb users rated it so highly. Not because they understood it, but because they couldn't stop thinking about it. Weapons don't hand you answers. It hands you anxiety beautifully. The highest rated horror movie because it actually disturbed people. Sinners is one of those movies that starts like a crime thriller and slowly mutates into something you absolutely weren't prepared for. It's grounded, gritty, and full of morally questionable characters. The title isn't metaphorical. Everyone in this movie sucks. The horror doesn't come from a monster or a curse. It comes from how frighteningly easy it is for regular people to justify genuinely terrible choices. That's why it works, because it feels real. At first, you think the characters are just flawed. Then you realize they're broken. Then you realize they might be beyond saving. IMDb users didn't rate this highest because it was the scariest. They rated it highest because it got under their skin in a way they couldn't shake. You finish the movie feeling like you need a shower, or a priest, or both. So that's the top 10 horror movies of 2025 based on IMDb user ratings. If you've seen any of these, tell me which one deserved better or which one is way too high on this list. And if you want more deep dive horror content, check out my video, 7 Interesting Scream Universe Details Fans Often Miss. Thanks for watching and choose your horror wisely.